I'm Darren Orff.
I'm Anthony Viducci.
And this is another episode of Decoded where we talk about some of the interesting news in technology. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. Mm-hmm. And like one of our favorite pastimes on the show is to talk about smartphones.
Yep. I think it's one a week, every week. So.
Well, I think it's a favorite pastime of most most people. The smartphones are definitely kind of like the driving product of technology.
And this time we have Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, before we get to Amazon's smartphone, that they actually announced this phone a couple weeks ago. I don't think we've mentioned it on Decoded yet. So I thought
no, because we haven't seen it.
We haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. Now there are some images circulating
and more rumors.
So first off, I'm just interested. Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As of a couple months ago, I felt like they weren't much of a hardware player. But
no, now they're getting into it.
I mean, obviously we had the Kindle Fire,
yeah.
or we had the Kindle, line of tablets running their forked Android device. I mean, that's been around forever. But
sure.
Now we have the Fire TV came out this year, and now we have this rumored Amazon phone, which I think is going to be coming out in the summer. So I mean, it's very interesting. There's definitely an internal change.
Yeah, and the Fire TV is a hit.
Right, and the Fire TV is doing great.
Give it a good
review. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the smartphone. Okay. So, what we got here is a phone that is different in many ways from everything else that's out there.
Remember, it's speculation, right?
Right.
So let's talk about it. 720p, possibly 3D screen. How do you feel?
Well, the 3D screen, I'm not wild about the 3D screen,
no,
but
it's on the DS kind of thing. It's give or take if you like it or not.
Yeah, it'll all depend on how the user is able to control it. Are they able to just toggle it off and on? If it works great, I'm all for it.
Sure.
But
what do you think about the 720p?
Really been, we have phones that are trying to go 4K. This seems to be a step in the wrong direction. I wonder if 720p has anything to do with the fact that they are trying to implement 3D. I don't know what's going on.
Or it could be a premium price.
It could be. They could be trying to hit a price point. It's going to obviously have 2 gigs of RAM. It's going to have Qualcomm quad-core processor.
Right. But is it going to be forked?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, nothing from them has ever not been. So I guess the one thing that's really deterring me is like a forked Android device is basically the same as saying like, here's another ecosystem for you to buy into.
Right, because you can't get the Play Store on there.
And as a consumer personally, I'm already I review a lot of smartphones, so I'm already have half of my assets split between iOS and Google Play.
Me too.
So
yeah, mine's all over the place.
The last thing I need is to bring in like the forked Kindle OS, and then I have to worry, So for me personally, I'm going to be interested to see what they do with the phone. Obviously, what's exciting is what we saw with the Fire TV. I mean, they came out and they wowed people.
Sure.
It's their first one out the door. So,
but what about the rumor that this phone is actually going to be able to maybe pay for some of your data using the Prime data?
That's interesting. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if I have Amazon Prime, supposedly I'll be able to watch a movie and not chew up any of my data. If you only have 2 gigs of data, you could be watching movies all day long for free.
That are on Amazon Prime.
That's on Amazon Prime. I'm okay with that. I know it's a select few movies. It's like 40,000 movies. Not everything is great. The TV selection's good.
Yeah, TV selection is good. They just got the legacy HBO stuff. So
yeah, so that's really interesting to me. If I can just not eat up any of my data time.
I mean, I think it definitely offers consumers another choice, which is interesting. And for people who are heavily invested in that ecosystem, I think it's something that you definitely
they're pushing forward, trying to grab customers. So let's see what they do.
I'm sure we'll be getting it in the office.
All right, let's move on to what's our next one? The next gen payphones.
Yeah.
That are happening.
Earlier this week, Bill de Blasio, New York mayor, announced that they are going to be introducing free Wi-Fi in the 5 boroughs in New York City. Now, what's interesting about this is primarily this is happening because there's a bunch of, I think there are about 7,000 payphones that
don't do anything.
They just sit there. So I think they're like, what can we do?
They're just going to retrofit them into giant advertising kiosks.
Basically, right? Yeah, they're going to generate revenue through advertising, and these kiosks is what they're calling them. We're going to have a wide variety of uses. 85-foot radius from the kiosk, you'll get free internet. I believe in Manhattan alone, there's 2,600 of them.
That's pretty decent. I mean, if you're sitting on the stoop all day and you're not eating up any of your data plan again, it's fantastic.
I mean, we have no idea what kind of internet you'll be getting.
As long as you could surf the web.
Right, and
okay.
how is this going to butt heads with, ISPs?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It'll be interesting. Obviously, it was. I feel at this point is like they threw out the idea, and now there's going to be kind of a talk about it.
And it's going to take till what, 2018?
And they don't. Yeah, they don't expect it to be installed in 2018. But what I think is really interesting about this, I really don't see this as like a hyper local story. I think this is something that if it's successful in New York,
it'll grow everywhere.
There's got to be payphones in every city in America that are being used, right?
That nobody's using.
I mean, it's kind of just taking the idea of public access to communication technology and just being like, let's update it. Let's update it with internet. Way people communicate.
You can see the future of technology just moving at the speed of light with this.
And there's some ideas that the towers will include text messaging capabilities, and you can also they'll have charging ports in case your
which is pretty smart. How many times does that happen?
Okay, well the thing is, I actually have a Mophie space pack in my backpack, so I'm never like out of juice. But
and I'm lucky enough to carry an extra battery because I have a removable battery in my phone. So
yes, shameless Samsung.
Yeah,
that's okay. So moving on, let's go ahead.
So what's our last one?
So a lot of people, there's a lot of change happening, especially in mobile. I mean, that's usually always the case. But the big ones, as we mentioned with Fire TV, that's kind of shaken up the set-top kind of marketplace. But also, of course, fitness trackers are still booming, and there's no end in sight. And
that's like the biggest thing for the last year and a half now.
And for a long time now, people have just been wondering, what is Apple going to do? Are they going to do an iWatch? Are they going to have a fitness band? What is that going to be like? What is this and that? And I think, a lot of people were like, oh, well, they're going to announce that at WWDC, which is their big conference in June. But that turns out that might not be the case. What do you think about that?
I think that's one of the smartest things Apple announced, that they're not going to do anything. They're going to take their time. I think the market's saturated right now with wearables. Some are good, but they definitely need tweaking. They need a lot of work. So I think they're playing the wait-and-see game, which is pretty smart, and probably they're working on, iOS 8? And
which will have the HealthBook app, which is their first kind of... I think it's going to be like their kind of hub app for all your fitness technology. So it's not like they're ignoring it. They're clearly gearing up for it. I think we'll probably see their wearables in the fall.
This one I'm actually waiting for. I'm like, hey, let's see what they do. Of course, it'll be just in the Apple ecosystem, but I'm still excited to see what they're going to produce.
And I think the one thing that I think there are some developers who are a little... They don't really know what to do with fitness trackers because there's a lot of conflicting evidence that suggests that how much you use a fitness tracker like sharply declines over time, and it, like you mentioned, is so incredibly saturated, and so many companies vying to be the fitness tracker that almost no one is.
The evolution is getting better. I mean, each one they started with just like no face, then it was like a little digital face. Now, of course, we've got the curved screen. You could read almost everything on it.
And now we have like stuff like the Moto 360, the G Watch. So it's happening. It's starting to mature a little bit, and so I don't think we're not going to be seeing a wearable from Apple in 2014. It's just not going to be as soon as maybe people had hoped.
And that's fine. I'm waiting for the best to come from them.
All right. I think that's probably going to do it for us.
Yeah, we're good.
So I'm Darren.
And I'm Anthony.
And this is Decoded.